Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me for Tips and Tea with Linnea FNP. For those of you who don't know, my name is Linnea Baker. I'm a board certified family nurse practitioner as well as a certified health and well-being coach. And I am so excited to get to be here today to share with you information on a really important health topic. Just has been blowing my mind with information, and I thought I really need to get this out to you guys because it keeps coming up in my coaching calls and in my coaching information. So I just thought, let's get this out to you guys so you have more information to make informed decisions about your health. And I just want to say I'm super grateful for each of you for giving me some of your valuable time today. I know how valuable your time is. And I truly hope this pours into you and gives you some great information that you can apply to your life. I do have my tea today, and we're drinking from a Switzerland cup today. Okay, my detox tea. Okay, so the topic today is unveiling the truth, health risks of artificial sweeteners. Such a big topic. And I want to delve into this topic because this really affects millions of people worldwide. The health risks, there are so many health risks associated with artificial sweeteners. And the problem is that these sweeteners are marketed as healthier alternatives to sugar. However, there is a growing body of evidence demonstrating significant adverse effects on our health. And I really just want you to be able to make those informed decisions so that you can make healthy choices for yourself and for your family. Because you guys know, I always say, when we know better, we can do better. And I got to tell you guys, I had a huge intake of artificial sweeteners in my life. From the time I was in college, I drank diet sodas all the way through until I started my holistic healthy lifestyle 4 years ago. And I quit all diet sodas. I used to use Crystal Light. I drank a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper and all the diet sodas. And I quit that 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back. And yes, I probably did some damage along the way because I drank a lot of beverages with artificial sweeteners. And that's why it's so important to me to get this out to you because I mean, guys, you know, I've been in healthcare a long time, over 2 decades, almost 3 decades in healthcare. And if I was unaware, then I know most of us are unaware. And I keep getting this question over and over again. So, first, what are artificial sweeteners? And artificial sweeteners are actually synthetic sugar substitutes, and they provide a sweet taste without the calories of sugar. So, synthetic means that the sugar substitute was actually created in a lab, and they're commonly used in a variety of products. Most of you will know them from being in diet sodas, but they can also be in sugar-free snacks, as well as tabletop sweeteners such as Splenda, or my dad's all-time favorite when we were kids. He always did too sweet and low in his coffee. And some of the most well-known artificial sweetener names include aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin. So why are artificial sweeteners so popular? Well, one of the main reasons that these are so appealing to people is that they look to reduce calorie intake and manage people's weight. So, the marketing on this and the information we get as consumers is that when we replace these artificial sweeteners in our beverages, so instead of having a regular soda or a regular fruit juice, we have a Crystal Light or we have a diet soda, that we're cutting calories and getting the sugar out, right? And so this way we can get a sweet tasting food or beverage, but we don't have the guilt of consuming the calories and getting the added sugar. And when they label them diet or sugar free, that's really attractive to us as consumers who are being health conscious. We think that if it says sugar free or diet, that's a better choice for us because we've been taught to reduce calories, eat less, move more. And I've told you over and over again, right, that I don't believe in that. That's not how our bodies work. They are very much more complex than that. But that is what we're taught in Western medicine. And that is what most providers will tell their clients, their patients, is that you need to eat less, you need to count your calories and reduce your calorie intake and move more. And as I've said before, and as we've talked about, it's way more complicated. But if we're following those guidelines, then we figure, well, if we just have to reduce calories, we can use these diet beverages and sugar-free foods and things to replace higher calorie foods loaded with sugar, and we should be able to lose weight, right? So what are some of the health concerns associated with artificial sweeteners, guys? This is going to blow your minds. Um, there's several health risks with artificial sweeteners, and I'm going to tell you things that you will not believe. It's going to go against everything we've been taught or believed with these, and it's not just the cancer risks that we've been associating with these. That it's way more than that. So, several negative health impacts, several negative health concerns or things that can hurt us with these artificial sweeteners. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble talking today. One of them, actually, guys, this is going to blow your mind: obesity or weight gain. Obesity or weight gain is associated with artificial sweeteners. So we always think that these artificial sweeteners, beverages, foods are going to help us lose weight because we're reducing caloric intake. And so we'll have weight loss. But actually, what we're seeing is we're having weight gain. And the following is from a Cleveland Clinic's article that was dated April 2023. This is all recent evidence. And they said, so first we want to start with, first of all, just sugar. When we talk about sugar in general, it's addictive. Okay. Sugar releases, increases the release of dopamine. And dopamine is our feel good hormone. And that is the same hormone that will light up when we're addicted to smoking or tobacco, when we're addicted to alcohol, addictions to drugs. So sugar is hitting the same hormone release, dopamine, the feel good hormone, as these other addictions. We know sugar is highly addictive. Okay. And aside from the addictive component of sugar, we know that sugar causes blood sugar spikes. And when those spikes go up, they go up pretty high and rapidly with these simple sugars like refined white sugar. And then as they come down rapidly, that's what causes a craving for more carbs and more sugars, so we eat more. But let's take a look at artificial sweeteners for a minute, right? So that's regular sugar. When we talk about artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame, or aspartame, I've always called it aspartame. I think it can be aspartame or aspartame, and saccharin. These artificial sweeteners are 200 to 700 times more sweet than regular table sugar. So imagine what happens to your dopamine in your brain when you get hit with that level of sweetness, right? It is like, you ever see the Magic Kingdom at Disney where the castle has all the fireworks going off around it? I mean, that's your brain. It is just fireworks going off from the level of sweetness that's hitting that dopamine hormone. And as it comes down, it tells your body to actually crave it again, so you want more. Well, because we say this is a low calorie diet type food, we don't worry about ingesting more, right? And so we have this addictive cycle that happens. Well, what's the metabolic effects of this? Research has indicated that consuming artificial sweeteners may lead to increased blood sugar levels and insulin resistance over time. So this clearly would cause a harmful negative effect in persons with diabetes or prediabetes and insulin resistance. And that's the majority of people drinking these drinks. Remember, guys, in the United States, 1 in 2 people are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and it's probably higher than that. So according to an article published in Medscape, and that's a journal that and website that we use in Western medicine for evidence-based practice, right? Something I would use as a nurse practitioner in the clinic to get studies and data. And that was dated August 22nd, 2023. So again, recent data. Artificial sweeteners cause significant disruptions in the endocrine system, which leads to a dysfunction in our metabolism. Remember, the endocrine system is what regulates our hormones. And hormones are messengers like text messages that are sent out to our cells and organs in the body to tell them how to function. So, just like insulin is a hormone that regulates blood sugar, we have all kinds of hormones. Some of them tell us when we should be hungry and when we should be full. Okay. And there's so many more. So the review revealed that consuming artificial sweeteners raises the risk for type 2 diabetes by between 18% and 24%. And it raises the risk for metabolic syndrome by about 44%. Guys, did you hear that? It's raising the risk of type 2 diabetes by 18 to 24% when we ingest artificial sweeteners. It raises the risk of metabolic syndrome by 44%. According to the NIH, metabolic syndrome is defined as a group of conditions that together raise your risk of coronary heart disease, diabetes, and stroke, among other serious problems. And metabolic syndrome is also known as insulin resistance syndrome. Okay, we've talked about metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance before, but I just want to refresh your memory. In order to be diagnosed as having metabolic syndrome, you have to have 3 or more of the following conditions: high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, low HDL. I call it, the HDL is high density lipoprotein, but just think of the H as helper. So if it's low, that's a good part of our cholesterol. We want that higher. And a large waistline is the other one. And in the United States, guys, 1 in 3 people have metabolic syndrome. And the statistics are crazy. In the United States, 93% of US adults are metabolically unhealthy. 93%, meaning they have at least one of those 5 different categories that I listed. They're not thriving in their health. Okay, guys, that's how powerful this is. So an NIH article dated January 2020 states that ingesting these artificial sweeteners results in the release of insulin from the pancreas. And that's because, and this is the why behind it, that's because the sweet taste of these artificial sweeteners is mistaken as glucose, which is the blood sugar in your blood. Okay. And this increases the levels of insulin in the blood, which eventually leads to insulin resistance. We know that insulin is the hormone that regulates blood sugar. And when the cells don't respond to normal levels of the hormone insulin, then more insulin is required to do the job of moving the glucose, right? The blood sugar the blood sugar, that the sugar in the blood, I'm sorry. And so more insulin is required to move that glucose out of the blood and into the cells. So the insulin levels go up, and that's where we get insulin resistance, to the point where then we have such high insulin levels, and we're still got extra blood sugar floating around in the blood stream, because even with the high insulin levels we're cranking out in type 2 diabetes, we're not able to get that blood sugar put in the cells, and that's what leads to type 2 diabetes. So we know that high levels of blood glucose are toxic and harmful to our body when we have high levels of glucose in the blood. And that's why you'll see diabetics having complications with their eyes, their nerves. They may have decreased sensation in their hands or feet. That's a nerve problem. They have problems with their kidneys. They have complications with blood vessels. And blood vessel damage can lead to things like high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. So very serious things. That's why this is so important. And that's a big part of why I do what I do, because this is an epidemic in our country. And it's happening in our kids now, guys. We're seeing more and more kids in the last few decades that are overweight. They're getting type 2 diabetes in childhood, meaning that's acquired. That's from lifestyle. That's not genetic. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune. That's different. But we're seeing in kids high blood pressure, kidney problems, fatty liver, more asthma, more autism, more ADHD, more food allergies. There's so much going on in the younger generation now. I told you I worked in pediatrics for a long time, and it comes down to our lifestyle and the toxins we're exposed to, guys. We also know that, and I've taught you this, and we've talked about this in the research before on here, that when our insulin levels are up, insulin levels that are elevated tell our body to store fat. So people who are trying to lose weight with artificial sweeteners and diet drinks are actually doing the opposite and causing more metabolic dysfunction. And guys, I've seen this. I have a program that's a healthy lifestyle, that's low glycemic index. It doesn't have all the sugar spikes. And I've had a client that I was following that was doing the program, and we were, going along working on his blood sugar and insulin levels to help him get out of type 2, or to help him manage his type 2 diabetes with lifestyle. And at one point, his blood sugar levels were going up and they'd been doing great. And the only thing he had changed was putting a diet type, it was like a protein drink for diabetics. It was an over the counter, like you get it in the like Walmart or whatever, advertised good for diabetics with artificial sweeteners in it. And he put it in his lunch routine because he wanted something quick. And he thought that would be easy on the days he couldn't bring lunch, which makes sense. A lot of us have done stuff like that. And I told him, I said, there's evidence that, because then his blood sugars were going up, and he's like, I don't know what I've done different. So I said, let's just take that drink out, that artificial sweetener drink out, and let's watch your sugars. Don't change anything else. Just take that back out because that's the only change you made, and just trust me. And his sugars went back down to where they were before he had added that drink. So we could see an immediate impact in the blood sugar levels going up, working against us by adding a drink that was supposed to help him with diabetes. It was marketed as that. And it just blew my mind of just that real time data, because I'm that science Y girl, and I like to look at baselines and objective data. And that was objective data. We were using a blood sugar monitor that his doctor prescribed, and we'd been trending and following him. And that's what led me down the road of even more research in here, because I keep hearing this more and more, and I want you guys to be aware of it. Now, you guys know I talk so much about gut health. That's my passion. That's my jam. Well, artificial sweeteners can actually negatively impact our gut health, or gut microbiota. So, research suggests that artificial sweeteners alter the composition and function of the gut microbiota, which plays a crucial role in digestion, immunity, and overall health. Remember, I said your gut's the command center of the body. 70 to 80% of your immune system is located in the lining along your gut. Because remember, I said it's like putting, our body's smart, and it's putting the majority of our immune system fighters, our soldiers, along the front lines where a lot of the toxins come in through the foods we eat, right? It comes in our mouth and goes down into our digestive system. And so our body wants to keep those toxins and things that shouldn't be in the body, which we have a higher likelihood of being exposed to through our mouth, out of the blood system and away from the rest of the body. So that's why we put the majority of this immune system along the front lines, along the gut. Okay. I also said it's the gut is the second brain, and our gut has a huge impact on our metabolic function. It's actually, by a lot of researchers and health practitioners, considered a metabolic organ itself. And it has a lot to do with our metabolism and hormone function. Okay. So we know that it's going to have, if it has an effect on all of that, our gut, if we're doing anything to negatively impact our gut health, then it's going to impact a lot of things negatively in our overall health. Um, so, so some of the changes that we see, well, why does this happen? Well, our gut microbiota is unable to process artificial sweeteners because it's made in a lab, guys. It's not recognized as food or nutrition. And that leads to gut dysbiosis. And remember, gut dysbiosis is an unhealthy or unbalanced gut. And we know that an unhealthy gut, or an unbalanced gut dysbiosis, leads to chronic inflammation, right? And we know that chronic inflammation is the playground for many of the chronic diseases plaguing the United States, such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, and heart disease, to name a few. Now, there have also been some neurological concerns in the use of artificial sweeteners. in addition to the metabolic effects that we've seen. And so, for example, aspartame or spartame, however you want to pronounce it, and phenylalanine. Um, so with aspartame, a common artificial sweetener contains phenylalanine, and that's an amino acid that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And excessive intake of phenylalanine has been linked to neurological symptoms and cognitive disturbances in susceptible individuals. Also, headaches and migraines. There have been reports of people experiencing headaches or migraines after consuming products containing artificial sweeteners, but we're still trying to figure out what the mechanism is, and that's not fully understood. Although, from my research, if you're negatively impacting gut health, that can create inflammation, and headaches and migraines can, one of the causes can be the chronic inflammation. So that might be one of the etiologies. Cardiovascular risks, guys, this blew me away. Cardiovascular health is actually another area of concern when it comes to artificial sweeteners. I had no idea. But I mean, again, when we talk about chronic inflammation and gut dysbiosis, yes, that's linked to heart. But this really blew my mind in the research. Research has demonstrated links between artificial sweetener consumption and high blood pressure as well as heart disease. So, with high blood pressure studies, there are some studies that have found an association between regular consumption of artificial sweeteners and an increased risk of high blood pressure, which is obviously a major risk factor for heart disease and stroke. And with heart disease, there's still more research needed to fully understand the relationship, but there is evidence to suggest that artificial sweeteners may have adverse effects on heart health, including changes in lipid metabolism, which is just your cholesterol, and also in vascular function, which is just the blood vessel lining, which is when you have damage to the blood vessel lining, that's what's causing the problems with cholesterol, blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, all those things. It's a disruption in the lining of the inside of the blood vessel. Now, according to an article in Harvard Health from January 2023, again, recent, a large study with over 100,000 participants identified 3 artificial sweeteners that appear to be the most problematic. Um, Aspartame or aspartame, however you want to pronounce it, which is NutraSweet and Equal. Those were linked to a higher risk of stroke. This one's hard to pronounce. Asulfame potassium, which is sunnit or sweet one, and sucralose, which is also known as Splenda, were associated with higher coronary artery disease risk. Crazy. So, again, something that we thought was not harmful and going to help us with our calorie counting and lowering calories. This is why I say it's so much bigger than that. And that's why I've been successful and have been able to be successful coaching so many people with the holistic, healthy, sustainable lifestyle program I use to help. And artificial sweeteners are one of the things we remove. It's not a diet, but we are taking things that can cause negative harm to our body and our gut health out so that we can thrive. And truly, it's so amazing because there's so many healthy alternatives that can replace these things that are easy and delicious. And it does not mean you're eating rabbit food, because guys, I don't diet. I've never been a dieter, but I can live this lifestyle. I've been doing it 4 years with great results, even when traveling. All right, cancer risk. So really, perhaps one of the most contentious issues surrounding artificial sweeteners is really the potential for the carcinogenicity. Try to say that 3 times fast. Carcinogenicity. Aren't you glad you guys get to watch me and make fun of me trying to pronounce these words? While early studies on saccharin, and I believe it's cyclamate, I hadn't heard of that, raised concerns about cancer risk, subsequent research has provided conflicting evidence. So we're going to take a closer look. And in the historical context, saccharin and I guess cyclamate were once considered potential carcinogens based on animal studies conducted several decades ago. However, subsequent research has called these findings into question, and both sweeteners are now deemed, quote, safe for human consumption by regulatory authorities. Again, we just heard all this stuff about artificial sweeteners. Just because the FDA allows it on our shelf, just because we can go down the grocery aisle and see a health food aisle and a cereal aisle and a cookie aisle, Remember, just because it's on the shelves does not mean it's safe or good for us. Okay. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why there's so many podcasts out there on this. And that's why I do what I do, because when I help you be an informed consumer, you can buy things that are going to be good for your family and not be deceived and tricked into thinking you're eating healthy and you're not. But that's just some background on this. And then current evidence and controversies. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence linking artificial sweeteners to cancer in humans, debates continue regarding their safety, particularly with the newer sweeteners like aspartame or aspartame and sucralose. So my take, all right, you heard that's the mumbo jumbo from like we still need more research, there's no direct evidence, there's some suspicion of high likelihood. My take is there's been studies that demonstrate a negative impact on our gut health with the ingestion of artificial sweeteners. We just talked about it. We also see weight gain and a higher incidence of diabetes with the intake of these artificial sweeteners. So we know these sweeteners are created in a lab, and therefore I strongly recommend avoiding them altogether. Our gut is the command center of our body. And when our gut is unhealthy or in dysbiosis, we create a leaky gut and we go into chronic inflammation. We know that chronic inflammation is linked to several types of cancer. So all in all, my recommendation is just avoid them, because truly, guys, I'm a person that drank diet sodas and diet and like Crystal Light and all those types of artificial sweetener beverages from the time I was in college and up until 4 years ago. It was over 2 decades. Okay, it was probably 25 years at least. It's incredible how long I drank that stuff thinking it wasn't a big deal. And it is a big deal in the research. So that's my opinion and recommendation for you guys to do what you want, you wish with. But I just want to make sure that you're getting the information. They've also seen some kidney effects. There's areas of concerns that for a potential impact that artificial sweeteners can have a negative impact on kidney function. Some research is suggesting that excessive consumption of artificial sweeteners may have this negative impact on kidney function, because in animal studies, they've indicated that certain artificial sweeteners may contribute to kidney damage and impaired kidney function. But they are saying more research is needed to further evaluate these findings and understand how it relates to humans. But again, we've seen all the other studies and evidence, so it's just another reason to be concerned and avoid them. Also, risk of kidney disease. Individuals with pre-existing kidney conditions or at risk of developing kidney disease may need to exercise caution when consuming products containing artificial sweeteners, although their current evidence is inconclusive. So if you have kidney disease, you should be following with a specialist, a kidney doctor, a nephrologist. So just ask your specialist or healthcare provider managing you what they recommend. Aspartame or aspartame health risks. They're linked. This came from Cleveland Clinic, guys. This particular artificial sweetener is linked to obesity, diabetes, early menstruation, which is, we're seeing that when I was in the pediatric clinic in younger and younger girls. We're having younger and younger girls start their cycles. Mood disorders, mental stress, depression, and even autism when it's consumed, when the aspartame or aspartame drinks or foods are consumed during pregnancy. And that was from Cleveland Clinic. Really scary. So, what are some alternatives? So, given the potential health risks of artificial sweeteners, what else can we do? Well, you can use natural sweeteners such as stevia and monk fruit. Those are two examples of natural sweeteners that can be used as alternatives to artificial sweeteners. Those are derived from plants. They provide sweetness without the calories or potential health concerns associated with artificial sweeteners. As far as what I could find right now, um, those were good recommendations. And then other natural sweeteners, and I use these. I use all of these, the natural sweeteners that I listed above, the stevia and the monk fruit, and then honey, maple syrup, and agave. But with honey, maple syrup, and agave, diabetics still need to be careful because those natural sweeteners will also raise blood sugar. So just follow with a lot of diabetics will have an endocrinologist, maybe a pharmacist, a nutritionist, or any of those make sure you're talking with them about your individual concerns, because they know you best. And eating a balanced diet. Ultimately, you want to live a healthy lifestyle with a balanced, nutrient dense diet. Typically, that means avoid the drive throughs, avoid the boxed and packaged foods. Typically, that's the rule of thumb because they're ultra processed and loaded with chemicals. You also want to avoid artificial sweeteners and refined sugars. And if you want to take it to the next step, avoiding soy, dairy, and gluten, as well as MSG and GMO foods, because these can all have a negative impact on your gut health. Again, following with the guidance of your personal healthcare provider, specialist, or nutritionist who knows you best. There may be reasons why, for your individual situation, that's not a good recommendation for you, but that's just a general rule of thumb. And then, of course, if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or children, this doesn't apply either. So, as consumers, how can we make informed choices about what we're purchasing and artificial sweeteners and when we go to the store? Well, read the labels. You want to look at ingredient labels. And when you're purchasing anything that's packaged food or a beverage, look for the terms the aspartame or aspartame, sucralose or saccharin to identify products that contain artificial sweeteners. And then, guys, I have a program that helps you learn to eat a nutrient dense diet. And it does not contain the inflammatory food triggers that I mentioned above. It's a low glycemic index. It's easy to follow in a busy lifestyle. So if you're interested, reach out to me for a free health and wellness consult. I'd be happy to talk with you more and do that with you. It's truly my passion and my calling and my purpose. I love what I get to do to serve others. So, in conclusion, while artificial sweeteners offer a calorie-free alternative to sugar, there's many negative effects to our health, and the negative impact on our gut health alone is enough reason to avoid all these artificial sweeteners from the research I've done over the past several years and what we're seeing in the research I presented today. So, add in the impact on weight gain, obesity, the development of diabetes and insulin resistance, and you need to stop and take a serious look at your daily food intake and remove these from your routine. Remember, guys, I was the biggest offender, so I've been there. And if I can do this, you can do this, and remove those artificial sweeteners. Because I ask anyone who knew me in clinic, the amount of diet soda I drank in a day was crazy. And I haven't had any in 4 years. I'm on a mission to positively impact your health and wellness through education and coaching to create generational health and a health span that equals your lifespan. Guys, just a quick disclaimer, this information is for educational purposes and to increase awareness on various health topics. This information is not intended to prevent, diagnose, treat, or cure individuals, and it's not intended to replace guidance given to you by your personal healthcare provider who knows you best. If you are followed by a healthcare provider for any chronic illness, medications, or you're pregnant or breastfeeding, then you should always check with your personal healthcare provider or specialist first before making any diet, exercise, physical activity changes, or taking any supplements to include probiotics. This information is not intended for children. Guys, thanks so much for your time. Again, I'm so grateful for you. Until next week, be safe, and I hope this brought you value. Take care, guys.